Good morning, I'm Maurice Barrett. I've got another life in lockdown. I'm looking forward to it. Trust you've had a good sleep and you're ready to serve God today. I'm looking at the end times and we're up to the White Throne Judgement of God. Very interesting. So a little bit of background. Jesus has reigned for 1,000 years and he's handed the kingdom back to God. God is having his sabbatical in the 1,000 years when Jesus reigns. It's prophesied right in Genesis. God worked for 6 days, rested on the seventh. Well, God's been working on this planet for nearly 6,000 years. And when the 6,000 years are finished, he's going to have his Sabbath rest and he'll hand the kingdom to Jesus. And Jesus will be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God. He'll be God in the millennium. But then after his reign for 1,000 years, put all his enemies under his feet, he'll hand the kingdom back to his Father and God can finish off his plan. It's nearly finished. The 7,000 years are nearly up when we're in the studies we're looking at. And all that remains for God to do after Jesus hands the kingdom back to him is the final Great White Throne Judgement that we'll look at today, and then the new creation. So Revelation 19 verse 7 to 9, this is the context. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up the breadth and length of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. So this is not the battle of Armageddon. That's at the beginning of his reign. That's when the false prophet and the beast are put in the lake of fire. This is now the end of the 1,000 years, and there's no battle. Fire comes down from heaven and destroys them. And now Satan is sentenced. So the next verse says, verse 10, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone where the beast and the false prophet are, and he shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. So Satan, the false prophet, and the beast, the two beasts, are in the lake of fire. There's only 3 people in the lake of fire at this time. Nobody else is in the lake of fire because they've not been finally judged. Well, before the judgment, God destroys heaven and earth. The old creation's finished. Verse 11, and I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. So I could just believe that. Heaven and earth have passed away, and now the throne's set up. Well, who'll stand before this great white throne to be judged of God? Remember, God's the judge, so it's a court, and God will only judge on the evidence that's brought before him. There's got to be evidence. You can't judge without evidence. Well, I believe all who have lived from Adam, except those in the first resurrection, will stand before God. The ones in the first resurrection have already got eternal bodies, and so their fate is sealed. They've got eternal bodies. They're going to reign with Christ for 1,000 years. They don't have to stand before God at the great white throne. Revelation 26. Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death hath no power. They don't even stand before the great white throne. They shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. The fact that they're priests is interesting. They'll reign as priests. Well, it can't be priests after the order of Aaron. That's a carnal priesthood. You have to be flesh and blood. It must be after the order of Melchizedek, who had neither mother or father, beginning of days or end of life. So he had an eternal spiritual body. So these are people who are in the first resurrection. They've got the spiritual body, and they'll be priests after the order of Melchizedek. Verse 12 and 13. So these are the ones who stand before the great white throne. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. So everyone from Adam till that time, who are not in the first resurrection, will stand. Well, what's the criteria for judgment? Well, may surprise Christians, but it's your works. If your name is not in the Lamb's Book of Life, then You're judged on your works. There's more than one book. I don't know if you've realised that, but there's the book of life, that's the singular, the book, and then there are books, plural, that will be opened. Well, the books that are open must be the records. That's why you keep books, accounting. You keep books, it's records. So a record of everyone from Adam is recorded in the books of God. That would seem impossible. But now with computer technology, it's easy to keep a record of 7 billion people. They've already done it. We're all on the computer. Lots of information about everyone on the planet. So it's understandable that God could keep a record of everything. Every thought of your heart, every motive will be exposed on this day. They're all written in the books. So, if a person has his name in the book of life, then he's got the righteousness of Christ. He's in absolutely right standing with God. He qualifies for eternity. But if a person's name is not in the book of life, then God is just. He doesn't just damn them. Their books are opened to see if their own righteousness will qualify them. That's why the books are opened. I'll read the next verse. And the books, plural, were opened, and another book was opened, singular, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. So it's clear that God is judging their works to see if they qualify for eternal life. Well, the books will show that not one person on the planet will be righteous enough by their own works to qualify. But God is just. And he's not only just, he has to be seen to be just. The evidence will be there for angels and demons and everyone to see that this person does not qualify. Verse 13, and they were judged every man according to their works. Well, if they don't qualify, what's the sentence? They're guilty, so what's the sentence? Verse 14 and 15, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So those in the first resurrection don't stand before God. I believe everyone from Adam who's not in the first resurrection stand before God in their flesh and blood to give an account for the deeds done in the body, how they've lived. And of course they don't qualify and they're damned. So we know the fate of those who are not in the Lamb's book of life. But what about those in the Lamb's book of life? What's their fate? Well, we know they have eternal life. But where do they spend eternity? Most Christians say, well, we'll be with God forever in heaven. Of course, with the angels. Well, is that biblical? Maybe you'll get a shock. I'll leave you with that cliffhanger for tomorrow and we'll look at the new heaven and the new earth. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. Think about the end times. Prepare yourself as a bride adorned for a husband is coming soon. God bless you.